everyone. Thank you all for joining. My name is Emma, and I am the Urban Ag Program Specialist here at CDA. So thank you all for being here. We're just going to talk a little bit today about our new Urban Ag Microgrant and what to expect. And some of my teammates are here as well just to help answer questions and take notes for me. So I wanted to take a moment and thank them for their support, as well as just let you know that you might be hearing from them in the chat. So if you have any questions throughout, feel free to put questions there. And I'll also help answer questions at the end for anyone who has underlying questions when we're all done. So the webinar is being recorded, just so you all know, and we will post it for anyone who might not be able to attend. And then also, if you just have, want to refresh your memory at the end, you can go back and look at it on the website. So just a little bit about the background about this grant and its purpose. So we have about $20,000 in funding available, and we're capping awards at $5,000. So this is going to be really a true micro grant. We'll likely be funding just a handful of relatively small scale projects, and the grants will be paid out on a reimbursement basis. So essentially, you'll pay for whatever your project needs are upfront, and then we'll reimburse the purchases once they've been completed. And our hope with this grant is really to provide urban producers with support in building a more resilient food system by providing access to agricultural products for their communities and helping to conserve natural resources on their farms. So excited to have some funding available for this purpose. And can you hear me, Joni? Might be on your end. Sorry about that. So our hope with this grant is really just to help you guys out. We're really excited to have some funding to be able to provide. So yeah, looking forward to seeing some applications come through and getting some funding into farmers' pockets. So oftentimes I think people believe urban ag refers to farms that exist within metro areas. I think this has been a big misconception ever since the program started. But for the purposes of our program, we're really more focused on the definition as it applies to local production rather than the production for distant markets. So this can include a lot of different operations in a lot of different areas, including urban, suburban, and rural. So as you can see from this definition, we do want to emphasize the importance of types of operations like community gardens and institutional gardens as players in the urban ag landscape, but because of our funding is so limited, we really want to make sure that we're focused more on traditional urban farms and ranches for this specific grant cycle. So things like market farms, CSAs, farms that participate in local procurement, small ranches, and then farms that grow for donation are all eligible. We're just not funding community gardens or institutional gardens at this time. We also want to be upfront that we don't have a clear cutoff for the meaning of local for this funding. So for our purposes, we're really just wanting to make sure that the producer is growing for community members in some proximity to their farm, rather than selling to retailers, restaurants, or processors across the country. With that said, basically nonprofit or for-profit farms that grow ag products specifically for the community in which they grow are eligible to apply. So you don't have to exist within a major metro area. You don't have to be on the Front Range. You just have to basically have your primary market be for communities local to your operation. So unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, we're not able to consider applications from institutions like schools, hospitals, churches, etc., any hobbyists that are just growing for personal consumption, equine facilities, or community gardens for this grant cycle. And we're also not accepting applications from organizations that don't grow agricultural products. So, for example, if you were a nonprofit that was working to support a group of urban farmers, unfortunately, that's not what this funding is for. Instead, we really want the funding to go directly to the producer. So, what types of projects will be funded? We really intentionally wanted to make this funding opportunity really open ended. We recognize that these awards are pretty small, and we want to make sure that we're giving you the opportunity to use the funding for whatever makes the most sense for your unique operation. Um, so please feel free to get creative or just use this for something small that maybe you've been putting off or something that is going to make a difference for your upcoming growing season. Now I'll go over just a few examples of what we might expect folks to use this funding for. One is infrastructure and equipment, whether that's going to be something like repairing or purchasing equipment that you might need for the growing season. This could be something like storage or fencing, wash and pack equipment, anything that you might need. Another one is implementation of conservation practices. So these can include things like soil remediation, habitat restoration, animal integration, and more. It's really whatever you want. And then market access. So paying for farmers market fees, even like tables or tents that you might need to replace or purchase for working at the farmers market or for your own farm stand. Or things like print marketing materials can even be used. A few more examples. You can also use it for things like community building, education, coalition building, or youth programming. Extra support with labor through new internship programs, farm worker benefits, or volunteer days, or even expansion and income diversification through opportunities to, expand growing space, create value-added products, and more. So it's really whatever you want to make it. We're really pretty open to a lot of different options. So definitely don't feel pigeonholed by these examples. And if you have questions or just have a specific project idea that you want to see if we would be open to funding, feel free to reach out and I'd be happy to help see if it's a project that we might be able to consider. So these are the primary project types that we are unable to fund. The first is research projects. We're also not able to fund any sort of project that involves travel expenses, things like leases or purchase of land or water. Staff expenses for most projects. We will make an exception for projects associated with community building or coalition building because these are going to be the main expense for those types of projects. And then any projects that have already received funding from another source. And this is our timeline. So we are obviously having our webinar right now. And then applications are now open. So you're free to submit anytime between now and then January 26th at 8 a.m. Mountain Time, which is the application deadline. From there, we'll be able to review all applications and award notifications will be sent out by around mid-February. Our goal is to get everything out to you by February 20th. So the end of the grant period is June 30th. So it's really important to note that funds that you receive through this grant have to be expended by that date. That's the end of our fiscal year. So essentially, if funding doesn't get spent, it's going to be taken away. So you guys won't be reimbursed, and we also won't be able to use that funding ever again for any other projects that might have been able to be funded otherwise. So make sure June 30th is the last day that you would be making any purchases. We're also going to collect a final report from all awardees via Google Forms again, so it'll be the same process basically as the application, but that will be due by July 30th, 1 month after the end of the grant period. So in order to apply, you'll need to fill out a Google form just with some basic information about your operation, and then project details, including the amount of money that you're requesting, the description of the project, um, the goals and impact, and then any barriers that you might encounter throughout the project timeframe. And then we're also asking for a project timeline and budget so that we can get an understanding of what you're hoping to spend the funding on, as well as your plan for how you expect to complete the project. So we're hoping it's pretty straightforward. It's like a relatively short Google form, but yeah, let me know if you run into any issues or questions about that. And I'm happy to help work through them with you. All right. And then once applications close, we will go ahead and push them through to our grant review committee. This is going to be made up of CDA staff members as well as industry experts, and they will review all applications and then make a recommendation for final review and approval by the commissioner. So we'll be evaluating applications based on alignment with the program objectives, like we've talked about today, as well as the impact of the project on the farm and then their community as well, and then ensuring the applicant has a realistic timeline and budget. And just some more detail about that, we have the evaluation rubric here. So reviewers are going to take a look at project goals, impact, timeline, and budget, and 30% of points will be awarded based on relevancy of the project goals. Another 30% will go toward relevancy of the project's impact, and then 20% each will go toward realistic timeline and then appropriate budget. And that's pretty much the process in a nutshell. We're hoping this is relatively straightforward and you're able to complete the application pretty quickly and easily. But I am happy to answer any questions if anyone has any right now. Yeah, and we have a lot of time, so feel free to jump off mute and ask away.
Hello. I'm just wondering, we are a very small nonprofit and we only grow about 1,000 pounds of produce per year. Most of it is consumed on site by our participants who both help grow the garden and are experiencing homelessness and poverty. And then we donate the excess to the surrounding Sun Valley community, which is only about 200 pounds a year. Are we too small, or do you think it would be worth applying?
No, yeah, you're not too small. I think that's worth applying to, as long as you're not just basically having like you're not just a backyard operation. I think that's definitely eligible. So yeah,
Yeah, our garden's like 6,000 square feet, but yeah, it's a unique community. So
definitely. Yeah, not too small. Good question.
thank you.
Hi. If we apply for a specific amount for the grant and there's not enough funding or whatnot, will you guys approve it for a lesser amount, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, we only have $20,000 to give, so obviously it's going to be ranked based on the application's quality. But I think there is a possibility that, you know, if we have like some funding left over and you're still one of the highest ranked applications, but maybe we can't give you the complete amount of funding, we would maybe potentially reach out and see like, could you still use this amount and complete your project with that? Sorry, with the just lesser amount that we could offer. I think that could be a possibility.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What are the limitations on equipment purchases? I know you can't get a grant and go down to Rustlers and buy a new tractor or something like that, but what are some of the things that most people usually look for when they purchase? For like my business, you know, what's killing us is lack of refrigerated storage space. And when you go down to the local restaurant supply stores, they're expensive. Is something like that eligible for this program, or is that a different program we got to look into?
No, yeah, that's totally eligible. Yeah, really don't have any sort of major limitations on what type of equipment you'd want to purchase. It's just, whatever makes the most sense for you. So refrigeration could definitely be a good option.
We did have a couple questions in the chat that came in. Like while people were asking, Ken asked if this is a one and done eligibility. If we get the grant this year, can they apply again next year?
So we don't currently have we don't have a funding for the grant next year. We will be hopefully trying to figure out other funding opportunities next year. But as of now, that hasn't been approved yet. That said, yeah, I don't really know what next year will look like, but I think that's something that I would definitely have to work through with my team. But hopefully we would be able to continue funding other projects even after this one, especially because the funding amount is so small. So my inclination would be to say yes, but I don't know for sure.
So, but the question is, say I apply and you guys give me a grant this year for ABC program. You guys get funded again next year. Because I received a grant through this program this year, being one and done. Okay, I've got my one grant. I can't apply anymore. Will I be able to next year? Would I be able to, say if I need something else, apply under the program next year if it's funded, or you get one shot and once you get funded, that's it?
Yeah, so I'm not 100% sure what next year will look like, but I would assume that since these funds are so limited and small, that we would allow a second, or we would allow you to apply again if you received funding. But I don't know that for sure. That's just a guess in my mind.
I wanted to ask a clarifying question about what it meant to be an institutional farm and not being. So I run a farm at a community center and we donate the upwards of 5,000 pounds of food every year, but we're at a community center. So are we considered an institutional farm that wouldn't be funded?
That's a good question. I want to say no. I think just because your location is at a community center, you're not growing food for the community center specifically. Is that correct?
A fraction of our food goes to programming at the community center, but most of what we grow is donated.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. Trying to look at any other chat questions that I might have missed.
Mariah asked if a watershed association could apply for educational series supporting local producers to market.
I would say no for that. We are unfortunately just trying to fund producers for this grant cycle.
Hello, this is Perdita from Pueblo. I have a question. I put it in the chat, but I'll just put it out for everyone to hear. So one of my questions was, and I think the answer to that was yes, like you can apply for a smaller amount. But my question with that then would be, is the likelihood that you would get the smaller, is there a difference between applying for the whole 5,000, or is there a greater chance if you just apply for, I'm going to buy this one thing and it costs this much? Is there a difference in that in terms of prioritizing?
That's a good question. And yeah, no, we're not prioritizing smaller amounts necessarily. It's just whatever projects we see that fit the description and have the greatest impact. So if you need the full $5,000 to complete your project, I would say go ahead and request that. But yeah, if you think you can get by with a lesser amount, then that's fine too.
My second question is, what is the likelihood of getting the grant if you've received, like, let's just say like a food security grant or, not food security, but low income food access grant previously?
That wouldn't really change your likelihood at all. It's all brand new, so it's really just based on what applications we get and the how the reviewers score them.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, this is Dave DeMalteris. I'm in Denver
Hi, Dave.
and I'm with the Urban Farm, and we donate all our food to the community under the HFKD grant. And so I'm like 2 months into working here and kind of assimilating everything, getting set up for next season. And I guess my question is, I'm looking at some irrigation improvements potentially, but a wash station is also really important and seems like it costs less money and it's a little bit more feasible since we already have irrigation that works okay. Is like a wash station versus irrigation, we're, they're both important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really either one. So whatever you think you could use more or have a more successful project with, I think, yeah, you could definitely go either way.
Okay. Thank you. So wash station is on the table.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That was great to hear your thoughts and questions. And my email is here on the slideshow. It's emma.hardiman@state.co.us. So please feel what.
Emma, Kristen Dennis wants to know if you can please speak more about coalition building or events.
Yeah. So I can go back to the page where we talked about that a little bit. So we essentially thought, I guess this isn't it. We essentially realized that farmers might want to use this more for coalition building or event type project. So this could be anything like building a coalition where you're bringing people together to have conversations. I think we kind of thought since urban farms are so frequently very community focused, that this funding could be used for that purpose. But yeah, I don't know if you have any other specific questions, YY, or if there's something else I can clarify for you. Great. Awesome. Sweet. Any last thoughts or questions? Great. Yeah. So yeah, please feel free to reach out to me via email. If there's anything that comes up, I'm happy to help in any way that I can. Bye, everyone.